Hello, this is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Welcome to my podcast. Has anyone else noticed how walking has become confusing? I mean, there used to be one kind of walk. You put on your sneakers and moved your body forward. Maybe you talked to a friend or dodged a squirrel, simple stuff. But now we've got weighted vests, interval protocols, fancy footwear, posture adjustments, and hashtags for different kinds of walking styles. Nordic walking, silent walking, hot girl walking, Japanese interval walking. It's an actual buffet of gait. I first realized how deep the rabbit hole went when I saw someone rucking up a hill with a backpack that looked like it held bricks. Meanwhile, another friend was counting her steps post-dinner to balance her blood sugar. And then, of course, there's the friend who swears by slow, mindful walks through the park barefoot to sync with the earth's vibration. So with all these styles swirling around like a fitness carousel, how do you decide what's right for you? Especially if you're an older adult trying to stay active without getting injured or overwhelmed. Well, let's take a look and take a thoughtful stroll through the modern world of walking. So let's rewind a bit. Walking has always been the unsung hero of physical activity. It's one of the first movements we learn as toddlers and one of the last we preserve as we age. For decades, walking was seen as gentle, safe, and a little bit boring. Enter the walking renaissance. With the rise of smartwatches, walking groups, and health influencers, walking has transformed into a customizable wellness ritual. It's not just about burning calories or getting your steps in. It's become a lifestyle statement. We've seen walking rebranded as mindfulness with the popularity of forest bathing and awe walks. It's become social currency in the form of hot girl walks. And it's also become a measurable fitness challenge with gadgets tracking your gait efficiency, stride length, and heart rate zones. But here's the catch. When something as natural as walking becomes this curated and nuanced, it can also become confusing, especially if you're trying to stay active without navigating a wellness instruction manual every time you lace up. So let's take a deep dive into some of the most talked about walking styles, what they are, what they offer, who they're best for, especially through the lens of older adults looking for longevity, safety, and results. So let's first talk about rucking, which is essentially walking with a weighted backpack or vest, originally inspired by military training. Think of it as walking, but with a challenge on your back. So some of the benefits of this include improved bone density and muscle tone due to the added load, increased cardiovascular output, and it's great for posture and core engagement. But some of the risks are that it can strain knees, hips, or lower back if your posture is off or the weight is too heavy. And it's not ideal for anyone with joint pain, osteoporosis, or balance challenges. So a tip is that if you're new to weight-bearing exercise, start with a very light load, maybe 5 to 10 pounds, and short distances. Walking poles can also provide extra support. Another variation of walking is the Japanese interval walking protocol. Now, this method, developed by researchers in Japan, involves alternating 3 minutes of brisk walking with 3 minutes at a slower pace. And you repeat this for about 30 minutes. So the benefits are that it boosts your aerobic capacity and lowers blood pressure. It's easier to sustain than full intensity workouts, improves leg strength, particularly in older adults. But some of the risks are that it requires attention to timing. You need to set a timer or use a guided app. And it can be tiring for complete beginners or those with heart conditions. So a tip is maybe to pair your walk with music playlists that are concentrated to show the exact timing that you need. For example, 3 minutes fast, one song, 3 minutes slow, the next song. Another style of walking is the post-meal leisure walking. Now, this style embraces a gentle 10 to 15 minute walk within 30 minutes of eating. It is designed specifically to aid digestion and blood sugar control. So the benefits are that it significantly reduces post-meal blood glucose spikes. It promotes gentle movement without strain, and it's ideal for those managing type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. But one of the risks is you just have to make sure you're wearing supportive footwear, even if it's just a lap around your living room. And you can pair this with social time. Post-meal walks and talks with a partner or phone calls are an easy routine to build. Now let's talk about pyramid walking. This technique gradually builds intensity, peaks, and then tapers down, much like a workout pyramid. So you begin with 5 minutes of a warm-up at a very slow pace, and then you go for 5 minutes at a moderate pace, 5 minutes brisk, 5 minutes at a fast walk, and then 5 minutes to slowly taper back down to your original starting pace. And the benefits of this is that it simulates interval training without sprinting or high impact. It burns more calories than steady state walking, and it keeps boredom at bay. But you need to be aware that it requires energy pacing, especially for older adults who might want a gentler peak intensity. And a tip is to adjust the pyramid length and peak based on your fitness levels. Even a 15-minute walk, mini pyramid style, can be effective. Now let's talk walking for older adults. So as we age, walking remains one of the most accessible and low-risk forms of movement, but not all walks are created equal. Some of the common changes we see with age are that we have a shorter stride length and reduced gait speed. We decline in balance, flexibility, and joint resilience. And we have muscle mass loss, especially in the lower body. So how do we adapt our walking to these changes? Well, you can use walking poles for stability and upper body activation. You can choose flat, predictable surfaces, such as mall walking, which is great. Or consider taking a buddy with you to increase safety and social interaction. So the top picks of all of the walking protocols we've looked at for older adults would be the Japanese interval walking, if you're monitoring it, post-meal leisure walks, short pyramid walks with moderate intensity, rucking only with guidance and lightweight gear. So the golden rule is this: if your walking style creates pain, fear of falling, or post-walk fatigue that lingers for days, it's time to dial it down and not push through. So now let's talk about the psychology of walking. And here's the real secret sauce. It's less about the walking style and more about consistency and enjoyment. So why do people stick with walking? Well, it can be very social. Group walks or podcasts make the time fly. It's meditative. Rhythmic strides calm the nervous system. And it's emotionally rewarding. Fresh air, sense of movement, momentum, it all adds up. But decision fatigue is real. When you're overwhelmed by options, even something as simple as walking can become paralyzing. That's why picking a default walk, such as a home base, is helpful. Think of it like your go-to meal, always satisfying, easy to prep, and flexible when needed. So, final thoughts is this. There's no gold medal for walking the right way. You don't win a prize for reaching 10,000 steps at a perfect heart rate every day. You win by showing up, by doing what's sustainable for you, by protecting your joints, sparking joy, and making movement part of your life, not just your routine. If rucking makes you feel strong, then go ahead and do it. If you love those quiet post-dinner walks while the sky turns pink, beautiful, do that. Or if you prefer circling your neighborhood chatting with a friend, well, that counts too. So, has walking gotten confusing? Yeah, a little. But with all the variations out there, it also means you've got more tools to customize your movement, support your health, and keep your body strong. So now what do I do personally? Well, I used to have a step tracker, like most of us did, wore it on my wrist, and I realized that I was becoming a bit obsessive about it, like having to hit that 10,000 steps every day. And so I've stopped using it because For me, I realized there's a couple things that I didn't like about it. Number one, it doesn't track all of your activities. So you probably all noticed if you're riding a bike, like you're in a spin class, your arm is not moving. So it's not going to count that as a step. And then number two, you could simply be standing still, waving your arms around, and it would count it as a step when in fact it really isn't. So for me, I realized having a step tracker just doesn't work. And then I considered buying a weighted vest for rucking after I read about all the benefits. And finally, for me personally, I realized I don't walk enough to make the investment in that vest worthwhile. So I opted out of that. So finally, what do I actually do? Well, I do enough other exercise that I don't consider walking a form of exercise for me. So when I do choose to walk, it's basically for relaxation. So for example, if I'm having a really stressful day at work or something, I'll just go out and go for a small, short, easy paced walk around the block or in my lake community. And it just helps me to kind of de-stress. And so I don't consider that a form of exercise, but of course it's beneficial to my health because it's helping me to release my stress. So that's what I do for me. So you do you. The final result is you have to find something that works for you. Don't let any expert dictate what you have to do. If someone tells you you have to get 10,000 steps a day, but you just hate it, well, chances are you're not going to do it. So you do you. Find what works. So take the walk that calls to you, and don't be afraid to wander into new territory now and then. Your feet and your heart will thank you. Thanks for listening. This is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Until next time, be well, friends. This podcast is presented solely for informational and educational purposes only. Use of information from this podcast is at the user's own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician or other qualified professional. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from use of this podcast.